You know what I was just doing? I was just emailing a picture of a slightly darker black Mossberg fighting shotgun to our friends at our Lauer friends at Duracoat. Yeah. This weekend, some of you who follow us on our social media, and it's shame on you if you don't, know that I cracked open the slightly darker black this weekend, and I started doing some Duracoat projects. I've been meaning to do it, but we have to let it dry outside. We spray it and dry it outside because we don't have a booth. Here's the deal, folks. You don't want to spray any kind of paint. I know some of you are like, what? You don't want to spray it inside without ventilation. And we're not equipped really to suck out fumes out of here. But I've been meaning to do it, and because we live in the subtropics, it has rained pretty much every day for the last 30 days. And so we finally got 2 days in a row where there was no rain. I was able to start doing some Duracoat projects. If you're not following us on our Instagram, you should, because we put up really cool pictures. In addition to being the shipping ogre, Zach. Jack. You know what's funny?
Yeah, the tell them the post office story.
Yeah, a lot of military people, or I don't know, people of my generation use the term Jack like buddy, and so I've been using that for years. I'm like, look here, Jack, not specifically Jack, and so I'll say that to Zachary when we're out and about, and I'll say, listen up, Jack. And so the clerk at the post office, we went up to just ship some stuff, and I said, all right, Jack, get over here, or whatever I said. And so the postal clerk, wanting to be like friendly and polite, started referring to Zachary as Jack, thinking that was actually his name. But that's not what we were talking about. No, Zach, in addition to being the shipping ogre, Zach is also the social media ogre. And he posts the stuff on Facebook and Gun District and Instagram and so forth. So if you're liking the Instagram, and you thank Zachary because he puts all that stuff up. And also Gun District. Thank you for all of you students of the gun out there in the listening audience that have jumped on. I saw an increase in our members' numbers and our likes and all that good stuff. Gun District is still literally in its infancy. I think So tell your friends, if you're a gun person, say, hey, did you know there's a new gun-friendly social media site called gundistrict.com? And they're going to look at you and say, well, no, I did not know that. But now I do, and I will check that out. All right, in addition to all the other nonsense and jazz and so forth, what else are we going to talk about today, Jared? It's a Tuesday, so there's no special stuff. There's no SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week or Fitness Talk or anything like that.
We've got a nice.
We can always talk about fitness.
We could talk about fitness. Speaking of vagination reports, we've got a vagination report coming today. We need a theme for the weakness report because we have a lot of.
See, I was thinking the exact same thing that we need to come up with a. Oh, right, we've got the vagination, which is kind of that, but
not really.
I don't want to overuse Tiny Tim because I know that it would hurt Kurt's feelings, or it hurts Kurt's feelings when he hears that. So we don't want to overuse the vagination report, but we have some just examples, and I think that's a good thing, Jared.
I have an idea.
When we have examples of weakness, we need to point them out.
The grad program members, I'm taking suggestions from you on the grad program member Facebook page. Give us some suggestions for this new weakness song. You know what I like? I like when we all put our heads together because we come up. I think somebody did the Tiny Tim song.
Yeah, Tiny Tim was a suggestion from our audience, and we did the psychological, the public school psychological terrorism update theme. Yep. That was a suggestion from the audience. What else?
Oh, speaking of the grad program group, if you guys are part of that, go look on the Facebook page, the Facebook group, and there is an announcement that I made of our new giveaway that we're going to be doing for the grad program.
Pretty cool.
You guys will know what you're going to be winning.
Yes, what you have the lucky grad program member is going to win a very cool gun that you will be happy to call your very own. And I've got a show note here, and it says F Dick's. And I'm going to talk about that this weekend. All right, you guys probably know, or maybe we haven't talked about it. We don't give Dick's Sporting Goods free advertising on here because I don't like them. They're flippity floppers, and the as soon as for the longest time they don't carry handguns. They never have, and for the longest time they wouldn't carry any kind of self-loading modern sporting rifle kind of thing. No evil black rifles. Well, then they realized how much money they were losing. About 2010, 2011, they realized, they're like, wow, we're losing a lot of money to Walmart and all these other places that do sell. So they decided they were going to stock them, and they placed a bunch of orders, and then the Sandy Hook tragedy happened. No, it was a travesty, but it was a wonderful thing for the left wing, so they could use it as an excuse to disarm the masses. But that's not why I'm talking. And Dick's immediately, knee-jerk, canceled all their orders for all black rifles, and the ones that were on the shelves they pulled. And if people had orders for them, they canceled their orders. And here's the thing, this is how stupid they are, or at least in it from a business sense how stupid they are. All those companies, whether it was Stag Arms or Bushmaster or whomever, well, they all have this thing called a restocking fee. So you order product from them, and then you cancel the order, and they're like, okay, that's fine, we'll let you cancel the order, but we're going to charge you a restocking fee. And what happened in 2013 and 2012? The great gun buying scare, panic. So all those rifles that Dick's canceled the orders on, the wholesalers got restocking fees for them. Then they turned around and sold them right out the next door, right out the side door to everybody else. Those guns did not get restocked. They didn't sit in a warehouse somewhere. They were immediately gone. So that was my point. Is this? So I don't go to Dick's. I don't shop at Dick's. But here's what I do. Dick's has sporting equipment, and every once in a while I'll walk in there and I'll look around and I'll use it as kind of to help me get ideas, as a motivator. And the other day, Zach and I were trying to figure out a way to come up with some protective gloves to do our gladius sparring. And the martial arts catalogs don't really cut it. They didn't have anything that we could use, because they either had fingerless gloves, which is no good for us, or they had full padded gloves, which doesn't allow you to grip the sword. So we were walking around Dick's, and they have a lacrosse section. I was like, ooh! So I tried on these lacrosse gloves. I'm like, yeah, that's the ticket. So what we'll do is we'll go there, and I'll try stuff on to see what'll fit, and then I'll go online and order it. So Sunday last, I took Zach, the shipping ogre, and we went to Dick's because I wanted to size helmets, protective helmets. And we walk up to the front door, and they're having this big clearance sale on the sidewalk, and they got all this stuff out there. When I look and I see that they've got lacrosse gear, protective lacrosse gear, in this big display out front, in addition to all the other nonsense that they haven't sold. And they have the gloves that we bought are kind of like a synthetic padded polymer, because the leather ones, if you guys have your kids in lacrosse, the leather gloves, the leather protective gloves are really expensive. And so they make kind of like starter gloves, for the people who aren't sure if their kids are going to keep playing. Anyway, long story short, they had leather protective gloves on sale. And I walked over and I looked at them, and the big sign says 75% off. And the gloves were ranging anywhere from like $49 up to $89. I was like, wow, 75% off. That's a great deal. And there's a little kid standing out there, a little employee. And I called him over just to verify. And I said, is everything here on this, this display 75% off? And he's like, oh, yeah. Everything except for, the apparel, T-shirts and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, great, rock on. So I went and found two pair. I went inside, go to ring them up. And when you guys go to Walmart or pretty much everywhere else, when they ring up your item, it goes boop, and the price appears in front of you so you can see it and verify it. Dick's doesn't do that. The screen is turned around. So when they're ringing up your merchandise, you can't see what it's ringing up as until they hit the total, right? So the lady takes the stuff and she's ringing them up. She says, boop, boop. And I said, do me a favor. I said, check and make sure that those are ringing up 75% off. Because I was kind of excited. And she says, no, that's 25% off. I said, the sign says 75% off. She goes, well, let me check. So she gets on her little thing and she says, no, this guy said. And so she gets in and listens in her little earpiece. She goes, no, the sign clearly states that it's 75% off clearance for all prices ending in 93. It's like, what? So I went out there, and in great big bold black letters, it says clearance 75% off. And then in little tiny letters over at the edge, it says 75% off applies to all prices ending in .93. That's crap, folks. And I told her, I said, that's crap. I said, you can take those back. Bye. And thank you for teaching me my lesson. Thank you for. So first of all, they don't let you see the price when they're ringing it up. And they're like, they put the small print in there because what do they know? They know that you and your wife and your little crumb crunchers are going to go in there and you're going to buy stuff for fall sports. And you're going to get up there and you're going to have all this stuff and they're going to ring it all up and you're not going to add it up in your head. And they're going to be like, oh, it's $89.95. And you're like, oh, it seems a little high, but I already told little Jimmy that I was going to buy him the cleats or the whatever. So you pay it. Folks, that's crap. And you're like, well, why are you telling me this? Because I have a radio show and I can do that. I was venting to Zach, the shipping ogre, in the truck. And I said, I can't wait to get to the radio. And I'm going to call those suckers out. And you're like, why are you doing that? You need to call people out on crap like that. Do it.
Maybe one of their reps will listen to this because I'm going to tag them on the social media.
You know, it's crap. It's crap, and it's one of those little deceitful, retailer tricks that, and I don't appreciate that, and I don't like it. It's like they're trying to trick you. It's like stealing, and I'm not down with that.
You're not down with the...
I ain't down with that.
Okay.
I'm like Coolio. I ain't down with that.
That's funny. You know what I need to do?
What do you need to do?
I need to take some SWAT fuel.
You need to take some SWAT fuel because you got to train tonight.
Yeah.
Are you training tonight?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do we need to get a protective mask to put over your face?
I wore a protective mask yesterday.
It obviously did not help because you're... Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at his nose and his face is swollen. He looks like a slee stack. And most people...
It's been broken so many... I'm telling you, if you tap my nose, it breaks. Maybe not tap, but...
Yeah, okay.
In my mind, tap is...
In my mind. In my mind, I'm going to thank SWAT Fuel and make sure that everybody here knows the SWAT Fuel promo code is SOTG2015. Use it when you go to SWATfuel.com and do your shopping. Velocity Triggers. You got a black rifle? They have a trigger for you. Go to VelocityTriggers.com. Watch the how-to video, and you can install it at your own kitchen table. I promise you can, as long as you can pay attention and follow directions. And Crossbreed Holsters. I am wearing a Crossbreed holster right now at this very moment in time, a Super Tuck. And it is the most comfortable in-the-waistband holster you'll ever wear. Often imitated, never duplicated Crossbreed holsters. All right, kid. This piece of news that we're going to jump into here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time at it, but I just wanted you guys to know that it's not just in America where they're losing their minds. Liberalism is a mental disease or a mental disorder. What does Michael Savage say? Mental disorder or mental disease?
Mental disorder? I'm not sure.
I think liberalism is a mental disorder, and it actually is, and it's a plague that is infecting the entire planet.
Tiptoe through the window, all the windows, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Yeah, this story is so crazy, gay, retarded. It raped my mind. That's how crazy gay retarded this story is. And people who didn't catch that episode are like, what? News.yahoo.com. It should actually say news.pravda.com, because Yahoo, holy crap, are they like the liberal left-wing psycho arm of the propaganda machine? But this story is actually repeated from the AP, the Associated Press, by Rahim Faiz. Hey, what does Rahim have to say? In an Afghanistan awash in arms, a push to ban toy guns. Kabul, Afghanistan. The weapons of Afghanistan's long decades of war can be seen almost everywhere, from the burned-out hulks of Soviet tanks to the Kalashnikov assault rifles slung over policemen's shoulders and helicopter gunships roaring overhead. Roar. It should be no surprise, then, that young children play police and Taliban. Like cops and robbers, but police and Taliban. Chasing each other around with toy guns and weaponry designed to mimic the real thing. And like the real war, there have been casualties. Uh-oh. There have been casualties. At least 184 people, nearly all children, suffered eye injuries over the recent Eid al-Fitr, the high goat rapist holiday, from toy weapons that fire BB pellets and rubber shot, health officials said. In response, authorities have banned toy guns.
Obviously, they'd never watched A Christmas Story.
Exactly. So, we're not smart enough not to shoot BB guns at each other's faces. So, the solution is obviously to ban toy guns. Not to make people less stupid. No, it is to ban toy guns. Here we go. We got a quote here. The Afghan Interior Ministry orders all police forces to confiscate toy guns, which can lead to physical and psychological damage, the order read. Dude, psychological damage. So here we go. We've got the armpit of the world, Afghanistan, the Stan. And in the Stan, we've got an ongoing jihad. We have constant threats from the Taliban. We have Taliban terrorists bombing parliamentary meetings, murdering government officials. Then out in the mountains, we've got all that poppies, which we turn into heroin later on. Opium and all that good stuff. We have rival warlords. And you guys understand that basically Afghanistan is not really so much a state as a loose group of rival warlords, and that your government has been bribing the rival warlords with your tax money. No, they haven't. That's not true. We would never bribe Afghanis not to attack our troops. You are wrong, Paul. That would never happen. America would not do that. Yeah, that's right. America would not do that. You're so cute with your little naivete.
You know what's funny? Is it says at least 184 people, nearly all children. So that means that there were some adults included in this whole getting shot in the eye with the thing.
During the recent Eid al-Fitr holiday, so they celebrated the Eid al-Fitr holiday by pointing airsoft guns. And here's the deal. They got tons of pictures of these things, and they're pretty much all airsoft guns. And where do airsoft guns come from, Jared? Japan and China, which is close by to them. So, well, thank the Lord that they've taken a stand against this dangerous thing in Afghanistan. Forget the Taliban and Muslim terrorism and car bombs and suicide bombers. Forget all that. We have banned BB guns in Afghanistan. Whew. I don't know about you, but I know that I will be able to sleep better tonight knowing that Afghani children will not have access, that they will only have access to real guns and, that kind of RPGs and so forth.
It didn't elaborate on what psychological damage the toy guns can cause.
More psychological damage than being ruled by a bunch of 7th century barbarians, a bunch of cavemen. More psychological damage than being like conscripted into the death cult of Islam. More than that. So the BB guns cause more psychological damage than the goat rapists do? I don't know about that, Jared. But I digress. Let's digress. We don't want to digress yet?
One more point. Let's not digress. Says the noise of gunfire is almost unmistakable to most Afghans. And unlike the U.S., there have been no prominent cases of police officers here killing children brandishing toy Kalashnikovs or plastic pistols. So they're admitting that the guns are not the problem. There. But here, they're like, the gun needs to be painted orange and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I don't think painting them orange would keep people from shooting their eye out. Oh. Well, we got a weakness report here. I'm going to talk about this real quick. And the source is patdollard.com. I don't know if you've been to that website or not, but that's the initial source. But the story, actually, I believe is an AP story.
Yep.
Yeah, Associated Press. And here's the title of the story. Congress passes ban on private citizens putting tiny Confederate flags on family members' graves. Now, hold on a second.
This is from earlier this month.
From earlier this month?
Obviously, yeah.
Okay, yeah, well.
When the whole stink was going about.
Yeah, well, here's my question. So the Congress of the United States of America, the same Congress that can't balance the budget, that's just like writing blank checks, the same Congress, okay, that is dealing with or is not dealing with, read the weakness article, the porous borders. The borders are bleeding. We've got Muslim terrorists. We got little Johnny Jihad, lone wolf, running around the country killing our service members. We got a president that's trying to ensure that Iran eventually gets a nuclear weapon, but they won't do anything wrong. They won't do anything bad with it. You mean the same Iran that still in 2015 does big public rallies where everyone stands around chanting death to America? That Iran? Yeah, that's the same one, Paul. Oh, okay. The economy's about to collapse, but you should know that your congressmen have plenty of time to pass a rule or resolution banning private citizens from putting Confederate flags on the graves of their own ancestors. I'm sorry, but if you're from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, et al., and you have great-grandpas or great-great-grandpas or whatever that fought for the South during the War of the States or the War of Northern Aggression, so your Congress is now telling you that you are forbidden? All right, Associated Press. The House has voted to ban the display of Confederate flags at historic federal cemeteries. Oh, so they're in federal cemeteries, so the federal government now owns your great-great-grandpa's body. Your great-great-grandpa's casket and his remains that are within that casket is now owned by the federal government. Oh, here we go. The proposal by California Democrat Jared Huffman. What did we just say about there are too many Jareds?
Man.
Jared Huffman would block the Park Service from allowing private groups to decorate the graves of Southern soldiers. We wouldn't want to actually honor history or stick with history. No, we have to eliminate that. Sweet folks, here's the deal. The reason I brought this up is because if you still think, and the sad thing is, Jared, there are still people in America that think that this whole Confederate flag nonsense is about trying to eliminate racism in America. Yeah, that's what it's going to do. So what you do, you know how you eliminate racism in America, Jared?
It's actually to promote ignorance.
You bully people. You force people to think your way.
Here's the deal. If they really wanted to get rid of all symbols of hate or blah, 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 then they would get rid of black history. They would get rid of Jewish history. They would get rid of all history because history has hate in it everywhere.
Well, no, you can't be allowed to hate. Folks, I don't even know what to tell you. It's about control. It is not about racism in America. It's about control. It is about who gets to say what you can and can't do. And once they've convinced you that your behavior, any type of behavior that has been deemed offensive, is now illegal. You're like, well, I can understand that, and something needs to be done about it. Like, no, shut up, moron. Do you think this is, it's like I was talking with, on Sunday night, we were talking with Mark Walters. I don't know if he listens to my show or not, but he was talking about how it's never enough. What have we been saying on this show?
A long-ass time. That there's never enough gun control. They never get to a point where they're like, well, all right, there's enough gun control, we're done. There's never enough state control. Well, what do you mean? Well, folks, they decided that we called it. There was a story. We called it, Jared and I, on this show. As soon as this Confederate flag thing came up, I said the very next thing they're going to do is they're going to say that the Gadsden flag, a historic symbol that comes from the American Revolution, all the way back to 1775, 76, and so forth. The Gadsden flag, the Don't Tread on Me flag, is part of American history. But because some of these pesky people want to cling to the Constitution and the founding, and they want to use that as a symbol, well, your dear leader, Comrade Barry, thinks that needs to be banned because it's being used by extremists. Yeah, extremists. Okay. So, there you go. There's your weakness report for today. Your Congress, they don't have time to keep the country solvent or afloat even, but they have time to talk about flags. Isn't that wonderful? Before we get into the main topic for today, and that's Lafayette lessons learned, let's talk about Frog Lube. You're like, what? You want to talk about Frog Lube? Yeah, I do want to talk about Frog Lube. It's minty fresh, and somebody took my frog tube out of here, and we need to get that back in here. Somebody as in you?
Somebody as in, is there one in your bag? In your range bag?
No, I put it back in yours when we were at the range, remember?
You sure about that? You sure you don't have one in your bag, too?
I do have one in my bag, but my bag's not here.
Therefore. I don't know how that happened, but Frog Lube, it just works. I reassembled the Mossberg shotgun. I did a Mossberg 500 pump-action shotgun in slightly darker black. I redid the barrel, the magazine tube, and the receiver. Reassembled it, and I wanted to Frog Lube it up. I couldn't find any. Isn't that the saddest story you've ever heard? But if I went to froglube.com, I bet I could order some. What do you think, Jared? I bet you could. Century Arms. Century Arms is also the other project I was working on. You guys know we talked about, if you follow us and are paying attention, that we took the Fury shotgun out last week. And I wanted to take it out in its original factory configuration first, shoot it, get pictures and film footage of it in its factory configuration, and then Duracoat it. Well, that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. So I tore that sucker down, and I am currently Duracoating the Fury shotgun. And yes, we will post pictures on Gun District and Facebook and Instagram. And last but not least, Brownells. If you want to pick up any of the stuff we've been talking about, like Frog Lube or Duracoat, you can go to brownells.com and you can do just that thing. How cool is that? All right, if you've been paying attention, if you listened to us this weekend, I was a guest on Mark Walters' Armed American Radio show on Sunday. I was on the third hour. And if you missed it because you don't get it live, that's cool. You can re-listen if you'd like to on their website. Jared, did they do it on iTunes? I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure they put it on. I know that if you go to Armed American Radio's website, that they have archives of the show there. But regardless, Mark wanted to talk about, well, everything that's going on in the nation right now. We had basically 3 back-to-back terror incidents in the United States of America. We had the Charleston incident, we had the Chattanooga incident, and then we had this Lafayette, Louisiana incident. And even though they weren't deliberately related to each other, for the left, these are all great calls for gun control and restrictions of your liberty. And what I would like for you to do, I'm going to go ahead and throw out the gun control hippie liberal challenge to you guys. Now, you guys know that when you go out throughout your lives, I'm guessing that at some point in time you encounter hippie liberal idiot maggots who think with their emotions, not with their brains. And at some point in time they will say, don't you think it's time to institute universal background checks, and don't you think it's time to get rid of these assault weapons, and don't you think it's time to derpa, 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 derpa. Okay, here's what you can do. You want to have some fun with these turds? All right. Walk down that road with them. Say, you know what? You're right. I think that we do need to do that. I think that we need to go ahead and ban all the guns you're talking about. The assault rifles and the semi-automatic handguns. Did you guys know that there's a device out there called an semi-automatic handgun?
What?
Yeah. Whoa. Oh, it's super dangerous. It's a design that's about 110 years old, maybe a little more. But it's super dangerous. Let's say 120 years old. Semi-automatic handguns. Magazine fed. They're fed with clips of ammo. And you can change the clip real quick and put more ammo in it. Go down that road with them. Say, all right, let's say January 1st, effective January 1st, that all these guns, semi-automatic handguns and assault rifles and all that they will be illegal to own, possess, sell, trade, whatever. And they're like, all right, yeah. I say, okay. Throw this out to them. Say, well, do you believe that they're in existence, right? That there are thousands, millions even of these guns out there. And like, well, yeah, I know that, but we got to do something. We have to do something. Okay. Well, after January 1st, what should we do? Do you believe that the gangbangers in Chicago will turn their guns in? Well, no. I mean, they're gangs. They're criminal gangs, and we understand that they won't turn their guns in. Oh, okay. Well, how about the guys like little Johnny Jihad in Chattanooga? Do you think that Johnny Jihad, that these rabid dogs, these rabid animals that your government has invited into your country, do you think that they will turn in their guns? Well, they won't turn them in, but they won't be able to buy anymore. Okay. Well, do you think they'll be able to get a hold of them? Well, what do you mean? Well, I mean, if someone is decided they're going to be a lone wolf terrorist in America, do you think that they'll be able to get a hold of an evil assault rifle or a semi-automatic handgun? And you're like, and if they're honest, I mean, if they have one little tiny shred of honesty in their bodies, then they'll say, well, then, like, yeah, they probably will, But I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. We can't stop terrorists from getting guns. They're gonna get them. Like in France, where they have really super strict gun control, and despite that fact, you had a bunch of little Johnny Jihads running around Paris, killing people with guns, with big, mean, nasty, evil guns. But I thought there was gun control in France, and that it was illegal for the terrorists to have those guns. Well, they're terrorists. I mean, they're already bad people. So, okay. So we've come to the agreement that you believe that when on January 1st, when they ban all these guns, that it's not going to stop the criminal element, the thug gangs, the drug gangs, the Chicago gangs, Baltimore, Philadelphia, whatever, that they're not going to turn their guns and they're still going to get them. Well, yeah. And then these little lone wolf, Johnny Jihad kind of guys that they'll still get them. Well, yeah, okay. So who is this law going to affect? Well, people they won't have access to them. They won't be on the street. So we need to do this new set of laws so that we can affect the behavior of the law abiding. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Yeah, but we just had a little conversation here, and you admitted that serious criminals that are willing to commit felonies, murder, rape, robbery, terrorism, whatever, that they're not going to obey the gun laws and that they will get guns. They'll keep their guns and they'll get them. Well, we just got to do something. And this is when they'll go off the rails and they'll start losing their little minds and they'll start whining, or they'll call you a racist, or they'll call you an extremist, or they'll call you a fascist or a Nazi, or because they can't handle the logic. It's going to hurt their brains. But you can smile as they walk away calling you a racist or like, how am I a racist? Dude, what are you talking about? If you disagree with a liberal, with a Democrat, with a progressive in America, you are de facto a racist. Whether, I don't care what you think you are. If you don't agree with the left wing, you're a racist, so just embrace it. So what do we do? I mean, where are we at? From an honest standpoint, from an adult standpoint, we understand that you cannot... Evil will always find a way. You cannot stop evil people from getting the tools that they want to get. Well, why not, Paul? Well, okay, let's roll back the clock 500 years and let's go back in a time machine and kill the Chinese guy that invented gunpowder. Okay. If that guy wouldn't have invented it, somebody else would have invented it. Guns are here to stay. There's always been firearms. What has changed in the world? Well, what has changed is the fact that where we used to hold human beings responsible for their behavior, we no longer do that. You can't hold people responsible for their behavior because that's just mean and racist and evil and nasty. So what can you do? That is what we want to talk about today. What can you do? And when we talk about Lafayette, we're not specifically talking about that instance in specific so much as that type of an instance. It's not going to stop happening because there is evil unchecked in America. I want you to think about that for a second. Right now in the United States, there's always been evil in the world. But we used to, as a culture, as a society, as a community, we used to understand that evil needed to be kept in check. But we don't do that anymore. Evil is no longer kept in check. Evil is allowed to flourish. Evil is given excuses. When you have mayors that admit that they told the police to give people room to destroy. I know that was a mistake on her part, and she didn't mean to say it in public, but every once in a while, if you pay attention, you listen to these people, they'll screw up and tell you what they're really thinking. When you have politicians that the first thing they do is all right, Chattanooga, first thing Comrade Barry and his minions did was get out ahead of it and try and call, this is a lone wolf, an individual, we don't know the motivations. We need to conduct an investigation. We need to give the FBI time to investigate before we jump to conclusions. Just because his name's Mohammed Yusuf Al Ibrahim, whatever, that doesn't mean just because he traveled overseas to Jordan, Syria, wherever, and came back and then committed this act, just because that doesn't mean that this is, folks. You're not going to be able to stop those people because they have no interest in keeping evil in check, because evil keeps you distracted. Evil actually helps. Ooh, yeah. Oh, you're a conspiracy guy. Whatever. Pay attention. What can you do? All right. You, as an individual American citizen, man or woman, unless you live in an area that prohibits you from being an armed citizen, and if you do, you're wrong, and just admit you're wrong. Don't write me letters talking about, you don't understand, it's not that easy. Yeah, it is. Life's not easy, but it can be done. Well, I can't. And I love the fact that a lot of you guys out there are really hip with the allowed or able. You don't understand, Paul, I'm not allowed. Oh, when did you become a slave? I'm not a slave. Well, you just told me you're not allowed. Are you a child? Are you a little kid? Are you a little baby? No, I'm a grown-ass man. Oh, you're a grown-ass man. But you're not allowed. Okay. Are you allowed to be murdered? Are you allowed to stand by and watch someone you care about be murdered? Whoa. Make sure when little Johnny Psycho or Jimmy Psycho or whatever, when they walk into the restaurant, church, bank, mall, wherever you happen to be, and they shoot somebody that you care about, and that person is laying at your feet bleeding to death, make sure that you tell them that they're not allowed to do that. Say, hey, crazy psycho guy, don't you know this is a gun-free zone and you're not allowed? I didn't bring mine in because I'm not allowed, and I wouldn't want to do anything to upset the culture. I wouldn't want to upset the establishment. I might be trespassing. If someone found out I had a concealed gun on me, they would accuse me of trespassing, and I'd have to leave and not watch the movie. So I'll lock it up at home. I'm not expecting trouble. Time to reboot your skills. Fighting skills. Not just shooting skills. Fighting skills. There is a difference between standing flat-footed on a sunny afternoon and shooting tin cans off of a post, or, making holes in paper, and fighting with a gun in hand. If you are ever involved in a situation like this, it's going to be scary, it's going to be dynamic, it's going to be fast-moving, and it is not going to be a sunny Sunday afternoon when everything is quiet and the birds are chirping, and it's going to be a mess. And not so much physically, although physical is part of it, mentally, you need to be able to do what you need to do. Well, how do you do that? How do you get that skill, Jared?
You train. You get training. You have a watchful or an instructor watch over you while you're doing the correct thing, rather than creating training scars for yourself that you have to undo and then relearn.
But I know what I'm doing.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Force on force, or force on force, is essentially a type of training that you do where you actually have to shoot or fight other humans with replica guns or trainer guns, like airsoft guns, which you can't do in Afghanistan anymore, or they have what they call simunitions, or there actually is a cartridge called a force-on-force marking cartridge. It's like a simunition, but it's not. My point is this. If all you've ever done is basic marksmanship training, but you carry a gun every day because it's your defensive tool, you're kind of kidding yourself. You need to get yourself into a class. I don't care what class you go to. Do your own research. You're an adult human. Get into some training. Get your skills up. Get your confidence level up. When little Johnny Psycho walks in and decides he's going to take out his or her angst on the world, I want you to think, nope, I'm not playing that game. Nope. You can play that game somewhere else, but you came to the wrong place because I'm not playing that. You need to have your confidence level up. Also, medical training. We talked about this kind of online in our social sites starting last week and moving through the weekend. But they had a quote from somebody at the theater where they were interviewed afterwards, and they said, what did they say? They're like, I saw a guy bleeding or someone bleeding, and I didn't know what to do. That was a quote from the bystander.
Why didn't you know what to do?
Well, I didn't know what I should do. Pull out your phone. Take pictures. That's really sad to me that as humans we become so weak and inept that we don't even understand basic first aid or basic traumatic first aid or that you should do something. Here's the deal. Do something other than standing around with a phone in your hand. And people don't stand around. They're like, they should have a phone because they're calling 911 and directing them to help. No, they're not. They're taking pictures and videos. Do something. Get involved. Get off your butt and do it. And you say, well, I'm not getting involved with strangers. I could get HIV or hepatitis, or I could get sued. Okay, cool. What are you going to do when the person that's laying there bleeding is related to you? Husband, wife, child. Oh, my husband, wife, or child could never be the victim of a traumatic injury. That would never happen.
Until they are.
And so you're going to want to
get one chance.
Yeah, you're going to want to do something. Hopefully, you'll want to do something. The big question mark is, well, there's two question marks. Will you have the ability, the skill set in a panic crisis type situation to do something effective? And will you have the tools on hand? Now,
I don't know. They might have just signed a pretty good life insurance agreement, so they might not want to do something. But if they do want to do something, I don't know if there's a lot of places that you can get that.
Well, there really isn't a lot. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places you can go to play with guns. There's a few places that you can go to actually train with guns, and then there's very few places in America that you can go to actually learn to fight with a gun in your hand. Most firearms training is marksmanship and safety, which is fine, but that's like baby steps. That's like learning the alphabet. Once you learn the alphabet, let's go ahead and make some words and sentences. But what gun people do is they learn the alphabet and then they stop. They're like, well, I know the alphabet. I don't need to make words and sentences and paragraphs and all that stuff. No. Universal safety rules and marksmanship, that's the bottom rung. That's like the step one. You need to progress from there. Get into a training class. Take the time. Invest in yourself. And after you learn to fight with a gun, you might want to learn how to make people stop bleeding to death. What can you do effectively while you're waiting for the ambulance to show up? Anything? I don't know. You tell me. They have what is immediate action? Tactical responses course is called Immediate Action Medical.
Yeah.
I don't know if Gunsight's still doing their class. They were doing a 3-day class, and last time I checked their catalog or their calendar, it wasn't on the calendar anymore, so I don't know if they stopped doing it. There's a place up in Ohio called TDI Ohio, Tactical Defense Institute in Ohio, and they do a class which is a traumatic medicine class. And then, unless you've been living in a cave with Osama bin Laden, oh, that's right, he's dead, as far as we know. We haven't seen the body. But unless you've been living in a cave, you should know that at Student of the Gun University, we do a class called Beyond the Band-Aid, and it's a 2-day traumatic injury course, and it teaches you, yes, you're like, I can't do that, I'm not an EMT, I can't do that. Are you smart enough to carry a gun? Are you smart enough to own a gun and not shoot yourself or other people that don't need? Can you safely and effectively handle a firearm? Yes, I can do that. Okay. If you can safely and effectively handle a firearm, you have the mental and physical ability to take the class, to save someone's life. Because not everybody in the world needs to be shot. Some people need to have the holes plugged in them. You need to do something while you're waiting for the ambulance to arrive. That's what Beyond the Band-Aid's all about. And, Jared, I'm not going to pimp the PLS. If you want to pimp it, you can go ahead and do that yourself, because if I do it, then it'll just seem like I'm trying to sell stuff.
Well, I mean, we're not trying to sell stuff. We're trying to save people's lives.
Well, yeah, I want you to have the.
There's
you know
kits
what?
out there.
Let's do it. Let's say it.
Well, I'm going to, and there's kits out there. A bunch of different companies sell different kinds of kits, but I'm pretty sure that we are the only ones that make the pocket-sized kit, the Pocket Lifesaver that you could carry in your pocket all the time. And we're actually I'm looking for somebody to partner with to do like an ankle device to put it on your ankle when you're carrying, like wearing jeans and stuff.
The Pocket
Lifesaver. You want to tell them why you developed it?
Yeah. Well, from a personal standpoint, I don't have time to get into that whole story. But after the Boston bombing, when people were standing around making improvised gear, and I'm sure there were people there that actually had kits. And I had a kit. I had a really super, and I still do, G.I. Joe blowout kit on a pack, which is in the truck. And the truck's 250 yards away. And the person who's dying is right by my feet. It doesn't do that person any good for me to have a really awesome kit 250 yards away because it's too big and bulky for me to carry. That's just like, it's no different than having a gun in a safe at home. And you're out in front of the bank or the ATM or the restaurant, and the guy's sticking a gun in your face, and you're like, hey, I got a really awesome super killer death machine that's locked in the safe.
Unless it's a Kimber with HydroShocks.
Well, if it's a Kimber with HydroShocks, it depends, like, if it's like, the different models have different cones of invincibility. Okay. So you have to check with the manufacturer on that. But folks, if you don't have it on you, it might as well be on the moon. And that's the point of the Pocket Lifesaver, is so that you can actually have something on your body to start working with. What I like, if someone's going to come work on me, I want them to have that big, giant orange bag with all kinds of stuff in it. I want them to have that. But you're not going to go to the movies with a big orange bag full of medical gear. Nobody is. And that big orange bag might be 100 yards away, but the person who's dying is right here by your feet. What are you going to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? So go to sotgu.com and just take a look. But what I'm going to leave you with is the Lafayette Lessons Learned. It's time for you, you, to stop making excuses. Oh, come on, Paul. Nope. Not here to say what you want to hear. I'm here to say what needs to be said. And what I'm telling you is, if you haven't been to training ever or in the last 10 years, you're wrong. You need to fix yourself. It's time for you to amp up your skill set, because it's up to you. If you don't know by now that it's 100% up to you to save your own life and no one else is responsible for you and your family but you, you need to learn that and understand it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the sermon for today. We're going to go ahead and put the plug in that one. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Fort Hood, how Fort Hood Part 1 exposed the paper tiger. What?
Paper tiger.
Yeah, and we've got an Australian story, eh? Good day, mate. We've got an Australian story to talk about tomorrow. And we're going to talk about Israel. And because it's going to be Wednesday, we're going to have a SWAT Fuel fitness talk for you. You guys know that you love Wednesdays.
What did I say I was going to do?
Way of making Wednesdays happy.
I didn't say I was going to talk about anything this week, so I can talk about whatever I want.
You can talk about whatever you want. You're an American.
Okay, cool.
All right, kids, remember, you're a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.